I'm focused on this theory cause it keeps me from this fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and Donald Trump has announced that we are closed to third world countries. I'm sure he will be pushed back on that and challenged in the courts and stuff, but he's pretty upset, has had it up to here, especially after the killing of one member of our military. But there was a shooting of two. One was left in critical condition and the other passed away. And there was some comments of condolences from certain people like Jasmine Crockett. And I had, she had did a condolences tweet before someone had passed. And so someone had retweeted, like, you called them slave catchers. And so I had screenshot it and put it on my page. And there was someone like, well, they could be sincere, and I just, want to kind of give them the benefit of the doubt. And I don't doubt that they're probably sincere in this situation. But I think it's really important that politicians say what they mean and not lie and do inflammatory things 99% of the time. It's really tired. It's really annoying. And what happens when something actually terrible happens? What happens then? You just, turn on your, oh, I'm a normal human being button and then go back to acting crazy all the other time. So I want to carve out some time to talk about my feelings on that. Also, it's funny, there's this major fraud story that's going on in Minnesota, and Tim Walz is being thrown under the bus real hard. I've seen, different news organizations talking about it, and I can't remember if we talked about it last week or not, but New York Times wrote a story about it. And since it's, super mainstream kind of news now, and people in Minnesota are very upset about their tax dollars being stolen for fraudulent programs, people are throwing Tim Walz under the bus. So we'll be talking a bit about that and some other things as well. If there's a ringing, if there's a ringing, please let me know. If you guys can hear like some feedback, I don't know what I'll do about it right now, but I hear some like feedback in my headphones. Sometimes I do, but I don't think it pops up in the recording, so I can deal with it. I just want to make sure that it's not being heard for you guys. I don't know what I will do right now live to fix it if that's the case, but if that is the situation, just let me know. I hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving, that you enjoyed it with your families, that you didn't argue too much about politics. Mine was pretty good. And we watched Physical Asia. I had already seen all of it, but I wanted to watch my sister watch it who hadn't seen it yet, because I'm like, man, I'd really like to just kind of relive that again. And so we just kind of watched her watch it, while we were like eating our food and stuff. And the food was good. Last year the pie wasn't quite right, just to be honest with you guys. My mom usually makes like all the food on Thanksgiving, and she passed away in September of last year. So we had a very depressing Thanksgiving, though we tried our best. And my sister nailed the pie this year, and it was so good. It was so good. She didn't make as many pies. I just got to take home one pie, and not for just me, but but I wish there was more pie. It's so good. It's so good. She did a great job. So she, I was the first one to cut a slice. I'm like, oh, it's really good. And so she was so happy. And then I saw her eat a piece of pie, and then she just started crying. And I was like, are you okay? And she's like, I just miss her. Talking about my mom. And it's funny what little things you hold on to different people, because my mom's taught us like all kinds of wonderful life lessons, and was a great example, and there's lots of things I could say about my mom, but there's little things that people just hold on to. And I loved her pies, and she would only make them like on Thanksgiving, and she would make them on Christmas. Sometimes, I guess not really New Year's, because we'd have that kind of rollover. I don't know why I never asked like, Mom, will you make me a sweet potato pie on my birthday or anything like that. It was always chocolate cake or something, but we'd only get the pie like 2 times a year, and it was like my favorite thing. And it wasn't quite right last year. And so I was thinking like, oh my gosh, I just hope the pie's okay. Just to kind of have that familiarity, that comfort. So I did thank Tina. I'm like, you did nail this, because we didn't have like, some people would watch her do some stuff. Like Tina was in the kitchen the most with her. But there's different ways that she would do stuff, and you're like, gosh, I'm never gonna be able to eat her fried chicken and be the taste that it was. Like I can make fried chicken. We can all make fried chicken, but it just tastes a little different, So those little things that you had about your parents or whoever when they pass away, they're, you only have them for that finite amount of time. So the pie was on point. So just a little thing. And we had a quiet evening. I know a lot of people out there argued with their family members about different politics. I heard about some different dust ups, and I think that's really unfortunate that people cannot get together for the holidays and just enjoy them and talk about their different hobbies and their just catch up on their lives and whatnot. And if you bring up Trump, someone has to go, just, I don't know, their brain rot just has to start seeping out of them when you mention Trump or politics or whatnot. And I'm glad that that's not my story. And I know I talk about politics all the time, but really many people need to go outside and touch grass. There's so much more to life than this stuff. Don't make Trump into your God. That whether you love him too much or you hate him too much, where it just kind of skews your relationships and your perceptions about things. Like, there are more important things to life. We politics is a vehicle that does affect our lives, but if you only have politics, what's the point of the rest of life? So anyway, I hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving. So before we jump into everything, I do want to encourage you guys to go to blacktunes.com, check out different content, website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation on the website, because it does cost a stream on my site, all that stuff. So you guys can support, I very much appreciate you guys. You guys can also check out different merchants available, like different mugs, like the black tea mug, and different t-shirts that we have available on the website. You guys can check that stuff out. I also have many books that are available as well. If you go to blacktnews.com, you guys can check out, there's a banner at the top to take me to my book website, but there's a link in the description. There should be, I think, but that will take you to my book website where you guys can purchase Bigger, which is my children's book. I don't have a lot of hardcovers left in stock if you would like to pick that up. I do have some paperback though, but there's ways to still get the hardcover, but if you want one signed, I'd go ahead and get that. But it's a book about a baby dinosaur who dreams of being bigger. So go ahead and pick that up. I know you guys will really love that. I have started posting my videos about my Israel trip. I don't know why YouTube doesn't want to alert people when I post things or whatever. And I don't think Facebook does a good job of it either, but I did start posting that. Whether you watch me on Facebook or YouTube, they're on both platforms, and they're in a playlist. So I have the lead up to it, and I did day 1. I'm gonna film day 2 and then edit it, which takes a minute because there's a lot of footage, but I'll still keep posting those so people can know what the journey was like. And I learned a lot of very interesting things, and so much of it was so beautiful, just some of these biblical sites, and was amazing. So just keep an eye out for that stuff if you haven't watched it, so that's a lot of fun. So anyway, let's hop to it. Before I get to the National Guard stuff, I have still been posting content about Charlie Kirk. especially like in different shorts on Facebook, on TikTok, on YouTube. I try to keep it like 3 minutes or so I can post it on YouTube shorts, because that's like the only way they let my stuff get around for some reason. And still not like how it was, they used to let my shorts hit like hundreds of thousands of views or whatnot, but they barely want to let it hit 1,000. But I keep posting nonetheless. And I keep debunking dumb things that people say about Charlie Kirk. So there was a video. It's like a full circle. It's a full circle of like nonsense. So there's a video that I posted this weekend, because people were like, Charlie Kirk said that Black people were better off in slavery. And like, well, where did he say that? And so they posted a link of this Instagram video that cut out this part of Charlie Kirk debating Naima on Jubilee. And it's the last segment of that episode, when it's like the 10-minute debate. And they cut off a part where he was talking about, well, there was less crime, there was less, the incomes were better or something like that. And he's not even talking about slavery at that point. I think he's talking about Jim Crow or whatever, that era, that time period. So they're using that as evidence that he said that Black people were better off in slavery. He did not say that. As a matter of fact, if you rewind it back just a little bit more, Naima is like, so are you saying that Black people are just better, like thrive under subjugation? And he said no. So he was asked point blank, and he said no. But the conversation was about, he was trying to pinpoint why are there bad outcomes for the Black community today. And his theory was that it's a cultural issue, because there's not something inherently wrong with Black people. So it's some kind of cultural issue. And he believes it's the epidemic of fatherless homes. Now, when you have outcomes, whether you're Black or white or Asian or whatever, if you have a father not in the home, you're more likely to have different issues. And unfortunately, that's a higher percentage of fathers not being in the home in the Black community. So you see this, more issues coming out of the Black community. So his concern is, hey, we need more Black fathers in the homes. This is an issue. Okay, I agree with him. I think he's right on that. And his other point is that there's that social welfare and all these social programs have largely been a failure. Not that some people don't need help sometimes, but they're largely a failure, and the government actually doesn't know how to help people very well. And so I think that's a larger conversation to talk about. But I did point out in my video that the point of like minimum wage, what's to advantage certain groups that they believed were better than everybody else, and they didn't want them to have to compete for competitive wages, and they knew that it would disadvantage certain people who they saw as less than, and they would be unemployed. And it was actually a good thing that they'd be unemployed, because they were easier to control if they were under the government teat. So when you think about these different programs that are designed to help people, just understand they are also designed to control people as well. That's just the history and the reality of them. As a matter of, just a really basic example, the reason why it was ruled by the Supreme Court that medical industries or whatever, like hospitals or whatever, had to get the vaccine or be fired is because of the different like funds that they would take for like Medicare or whatever, is Medicaid one of them. So government money does come with government strings. Just FYI. Okay. So Charlie, she kept trying to be like, oh, well, the more this, but so they do all this crime and all these terrible things because there's been this compound of oppression, and maybe they're scared, maybe there's just generational trauma. So she's just making the argument that all these things throughout the years have trauma has conditioned us to do crime or something. And Charlie's just like, no, there's these individual things that are cultural, that are bad, that lead to these different outcomes. And so his point about mentioning that there was less crime or more money per capita, which she agreed with, was to say that, okay, if this was a time where America was more racist, yet there were these particular things that were better, then racism isn't actually the thing that is holding people back in these ways. It's these other cultural issues. And I don't see why that doesn't make sense to people. You can not like it, you can disagree with it, but it's not a racist argument. So I went ahead and explained that and showed the clips, how people are using it out of context, how are they dishonest or whatever. And then someone in the comment says, okay, well, we know that Charlie Kirk, what about when he used racial slurs? And I'm like, he didn't use a racial slur. And I knew what they were talking about. And then they, I had to address that. And so I did a video with Charlie Kirk on stage yelling at Cenk Uygur. And he's like, I'm a capitalist every day, Cenk. Okay. And people just take that clip. They don't know that he's talking about Cenk Uygur. I think a lot of people who are spreading it probably do know that he's talking about Cenk Uygur. I don't, Cenk might not be the correct way to pronounce it, but that's how he could pronounce it. That's the way that I pronounce it. But that's not the racial, how you say, the particular racial slur that they're talking about. And the particular racial slur they're talking about is a Chinese racial slur. And Cenk is a Turkish American man. Okay, so I made the point, even if you misheard, it's still idiotic to think that he said that he just crashed out like that at Politicon and started yelling Chinese racial slurs at that Turkish American man. That didn't make any sense. You should have researched it more. And if you just researched it just a little bit to see who he was talking to, you would have found out that the man's name was actually Cenk. And if you are on the left, Young Turks has been around for a long time. They've had a massive following for a long time. I don't know how you wouldn't know who they are, especially someone like Naima. Naima spread that propaganda. I maybe she's that dumb. Maybe she's just dishonest. Emmanuel Aiko also shared that around, and other folks as well. And to me, it's crazy that people were doing that. To me, it's just mind numbing that there are folks still spreading that around. Okay. So in my comments, someone said, okay, but I don't understand why you're defending these people. And when Charlie Kirk said that Black people were better off in slavery. So it's a full circle of ignorance. And they listed other things. I'm like, okay, I'm defending them because most of the things that you're saying are misunderstood or a lie. So then I posted the link to that other video, and it just keeps going around and round and round and round again. And it does get annoying. It does get a little tiring. I know people have thanked me for, sticking up for Charlie again and again. And some people are like, he's dead, get over it. Which they said in those comments, or just get over it. And someone even said, well, he's dead, he can't debate anymore, so we'll say whatever we want about him. Yeah, I think it's disgusting. And the reason why people keep saying these terrible things about Charlie Kirk is to make it seem as if he got what he deserved. And if they did it to him, they'll do it to you. And I like talking the truth, speaking the truth. And the more these people want to lie about it, the more they want to correct it. That's why there's so many videos of it. That's how I ended up with so many abortion, people. I do a video, people respond. I respond to the response. People respond to that, and I respond to that response. That's how it just kind of keeps growing and growing. That's why I did a lot of videos on Cracker Barrel. That's why I did a lot of videos on that Meyer story, because people respond, they lie. I tell the truth. People are mad, I tell the truth. I respond to their slurs and all the crazy things that they say, and it just keeps going and going and going, and that's how the content ends up being what it is. So yeah, I will probably still continue to debunk these lies, because another thing is I'm speaking the truth, and because I'm speaking the truth and correcting this disinformation, misinformation, slander, or whatever, because I'm doing that, people are like, oh, she's defending this racist. So they're like, oh, you're a coon, you're an Uncle Tom, you're a Auntie Ruckus, you're all these terrible slurs, and etc. etc. So they believe that I'm some kind of traitor because they falsely believe that Charlie Kirk is a racist. So it's just It's just really gross. But I'll continue to do that. But that's a little bit of my yesterday, I guess my Saturday, Sunday, and today, because I've responded to comments. I haven't made any videos today, but they're gonna be coming. So just FYI. Just FYI. Um Something that is interesting going on right now is there is a anti-Semite Stop Anti-Semitism is doing a anti-Semite of the year. Last year Candace Owens was crowned the champion, and one of the people right now who's a contender, because they didn't put Candace back on there. I don't know why they didn't put Nick Fuentes on there, but he's been a nominee many times, but I don't know. Miss Rachel's on there, and I'm like, oh, definitely would like to see her win that for spreading so many blood libels and having pro Hamas people on her children's platform. I would absolutely love to see her win that. It is a like a lot of sites or whatever, just FYI, you go in there to vote, you have to put in your name and email. So it is like an information capture plot, I guess. So I was about to immediately vote, and I'm like, you want my email? I might still do it anyway, but it's an email capture thing. But I think she's worthy of that title. There's some good contenders, but the damage she's done has been massive, I would say, certainly. Anyway, let's move on. So unfortunately, there was news this weekend after the National Guard shooting that one of the members was dead. It succumbed to the injuries. So I'm going to read the CNN article. Family and friends are mourning a National Guard member after an ambush-style shooting in Washington, D.C., while another soldier who was also injured near the White House fights for his life. She's just passed away, President Donald Trump said of US Army Specialist Sarah Beckstrom, 20, in a Thanksgiving call to service members. She's no longer with us. She's looking down on us right now. U.S. Air Force Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf, 24, the other West Virginia National Guard member injured in the Wednesday shooting, remains hospitalized in a very serious condition. West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey told CNN's Sarah Sidner, please keep my son in your prayers. Wolf's father, Jason Wolf, told CNN. His son is a great person. He's a fighter, he shared. Those who knew Beckstrom are remembering her for a kind soul, known to go the extra mile for the benefit of others. The National Guard members were two of thousands of soldiers from multiple states who responded to the nation's capital in August as part of Trump's surge of federal law enforcement in the area. So, this is a terrible thing that happened. I think we were live on Wednesday. I believe we did talk about it as it was, or maybe it happened later. I know I immediately did a video on TikTok and shared it. At the time, when I made a quick video about it, we didn't know that it was Islamic terror. And I made a video about Alyssa Slotkin because she had said something crazy about the National Guard just days ago. And we know so many left-wing people have just been radicalized to just react and attack. Like when Jimmy Kimmel was off the air for a week and someone shot up an ABC affiliate, or there have been attacks on, ICE agents and so on. So I didn't know necessarily if it was an attack like that. But I did mention her words, which I'll play the video that she had done on a Sunday show not too long ago. But we do know that it was a radical Islamic terrorist. It was someone who worked with the CIA in Afghanistan, actually. And they came over here after the absurd pullout from Joe Biden. And they say that they were vetted. If they worked for the CIA, perhaps they were. And Kristi Noem has said that the radicalization happened afterwards. The Trump administration is getting grilled for approving his request for asylum, because it was like up again, and they approved him. So there's some kind of process where this was lost in the weeds. There were signs. Different, I guess, community groups reported him. It sounds like he kind of had like a mental, I guess I certainly don't want to downplay the radical nature of Islamic terror, but it sounds like he also was just not there, because there were different reports about, like, if his wife was gone, he would send his kids to school like not put together, and so that he was just kind of losing touch, I guess, with reality a little bit, or just not caring for his family and kids, and isolating himself, and probably just was unwell. And like there's a lot of unwell people who will turn to, I don't know, politics to go ahead and do some kind of political violence. They're not well, and there's some kind of avenue where they think that if they connect themselves to this, they'll be bigger than what they are. And that's, you see the trans shooters or other political killers, I suppose. And this might be the case with him. They're still investigating, but this is obviously a terrible thing that happened. Hearing, that the news and stuff broke on Thanksgiving, or just happening right before, it really kind of gets to me, because I just explained that my mom passed away last September, and we had to deal with Thanksgiving of not being there. So when you lose a loved one, it sucks anytime that it happens. But just when you get to those holidays, they're really hard when you have to go on through the routine of them not being there at the table. Maybe there's things that they normally do. Maybe, it was hard. Thanksgiving was harder than Christmas. Christmas was hard, but at the same time, like, we really came together to try to, lift up and remember my mom. Like I mentioned how, my sister got her handwriting because she did like the church envelopes and things like that. So she got her handwriting, and from like when she would write out my name or whatever in her notes about how much I gave throughout the years, and they scanned that and they put that on different Christmas packages, because my mom shops in advance. She shops the whole year through. So there were already gifts that she had purchased for me and other siblings. And so even though she was gone, what she had for us was still there, and her handwriting was like on the packages, and it was really thoughtful, really wonderful. So we had many things like that to lift us up. So but Thanksgiving was really hard. So I'm very heartbroken for her family. Very heartbroken for her family. So in response to this, Donald Trump is kind of done with immigration, and said, if you're a third world country, you're not getting in here. Now, am I confident that's going to remain the case? I'm sure there's going to be pushback up the wazoo. I don't know how much political capital he's going to have because of this particular tragedy, and how much the Democrats are really going to push back on this and the challenges and so on. I'm sure they'll still do it a lot, but there's some really bad stuff that the Democrats have been doing as of late that makes them look like trash. So I mentioned this earlier. So Jasmine Crockett, she had issued condolences, and I'll show you her tweet, but then I'm going to show you something that she said not too long ago. Okay? So she said, my prayers are with the National Guard members injured in today's senseless shooting. Grateful for the officers and first responders who move quickly. There's no place for this kind of violence in our country. A generic post that you should, you know, put out during that some kind of time. And I already see like tweets under it that's like, you will be back to your regular incitement of violence by tomorrow morning. Yeah, so anyway, let's look at what she had said not too long ago.
I'll say it again. Donald Trump's mass deportation system makes me think of what a modern day slave patrol would look like. Slave patrols were armed groups empowered by the government to control, intimidate, and terrorize people solely based on color. That's what's happening now. Donald Trump is sending mass agents without warrants into communities of color to terrorize the people who live there. And the reason that I want to make sure that I draw out this link, because we heard Maxine say that Black and brown is coming together. I'll say it again.
Okay, so first of all, there's a lot. I don't know. That's just a lot of rhetoric, obviously, but I've seen, I don't know, a lot of people on TikTok talk kind of like, where's the Black people like defending us? And like, y'all ain't supposed to be like, what do you mean? Like, like this ain't our fight. Like, so I don't think there's that necessarily camaraderie of the Black and brown are coming together. It's not based off of your skin color. It's based off of your immigration status. It's not about you being Black or brown. It's about your immigration status. Slave catchers were a part of an evil institution of slavery. We shouldn't have allowed that in the United States of America. But immigration and people coming here legally, people should do that. It's fine to have borders. It's good to have borders. Are you equating having borders to slavery? Like it's such a stupid comparison. It's such a stupid comparison, but I understand why they're making this comparison because, by the way, Kamala Harris did the same foolishness talking about ICE agents, comparing it to modern day slave catchers. Or people compare the police to just modern day slave catchers. If it's good to have laws that keep order, social order, that keep communities safe, that preserve our national identity or safety, security. So unless you want to throw all that away, which maybe some of them do, but this is just really stupid rhetoric. And I don't know. The jury's out. You guys can let me know what you think. She might be that dumb to believe all the crap that she's saying. I think it's more likely that it's for attention, because she gets a lot of attention. She goes on a lot of shows. She gets to go on a lot of podcasts. And maybe one day she'll try to clean up her act like AOC. It's still dumb radical stuff, but she's not as bad as, I don't know, Miss Crockett is right now, right? But because AOC, I think people are like, oh, she's about to run for president. Maybe she's gonna run for president. Maybe she's gonna try to run for senator or something. I'm not sure, but AOC's been making some moves. But she gets attention this way. She gets to rile up her base, and a lot of their base want their leaders to be radical. And I think that's maybe I hope that's a small minority that's just very vocal. But why not? Why I would be so embarrassed to say garbage like this all of the time. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. It's not in me. It's not in me. So since she said that particular thing, when she did her condolences, people were retweeting it like, you just called them like slave catchers the other day. And some I had screenshot someone like making that point. And like, oh well, she might, may be sincere. I believe that she's probably sincere, tweeting out like, oh, we shouldn't have this violence, and I'm grateful for the first responders. I hope they don't die. I hope they pull through. Like that is probably sincere, but we need our politicians to actually be sincere throughout the duration of their tenure and stop going on TV and acting like a dang fool when there's cameras and you get clicks and plays and invites. Act normal. Say what you mean. And I don't mean like you go and cuss out somebody because you're mad at them and because you're just gonna get everything off your chest. I mean you still strategically, like, and be cordial and all that stuff. But don't get up here and lie and say this inflammatory nonsense. It's dangerous. It's dangerous, and it's not fair to the men and women who go out there and put their lives at risk to protect our nation, to serve this nation. And then you got people like Alyssa Slotkin who want to encourage our service men and women to disobey orders from the president. Now she had said sending prayers and strength to the friends, families, and fellow guardsmen of the 2 West Virginians who were shot in Washington, D.C. These individuals signed up to serve because they cared about their community and their country, and to have this happen the day before Thanksgiving is heartbreaking. Okay, that's what you said there, miss. But yeah, people are saying some mean things in the comments in response because they know the kind of crap that she has said. She said something crazy before that on a Sunday show. So let me pull that up real quick. Hold on. Sorry, I thought I saved it. I know I retweeted it. Yeah, here we go. She suggested the National Guardsmen would just be shooting Americans.
Look at these videos coming out of places like Chicago. It makes me incredibly nervous that we're about to get stressed, shoot at American civilians. It is a very, very stressful situation for these law enforcement and for the communities on the ground. So it was basically a warning to say, like, if you're asked to do something, particularly against American citizens, look at these videos.
So defending that video of like, hey, you don't have to obey orders, that you think are shady, and her and Mark Kelly and different folks. And here she's defending it, saying, "Oh well, National Guard, they might be stressed and shoot people. They're trained under stress. They know how to handle stress. Why are you putting that in people's minds that they might just go out and kill civilians?" This is what she said. Do I think that she actually believes that? I hope not. But I would, if I had to put money on it, I would say probably not. But they got to say crazy stuff for their base or to justify the other crazy stuff that they're doing to try to undermine the president of the United States. And it's like, oh, I hope you pull through. Yeah, of course you hope you pull through, but you shouldn't have said this crazy crap before. These people need to say what they mean instead of being this caricature on TV or at these different meetings or whatever for their people, for the constituents. Just stand up and be a real adult. You don't like what the president's doing, but that doesn't mean that he's giving illegal orders. You may not like what he's doing, but too bad the people voted for him. If he is actually doing something illegal and you have some means of impeaching him, then you can go ahead and you can do that in act. But these people, sure enough, didn't care too much when Joe Biden had Afghanistan civilians blown up. And then they're like, oh, the shot was tried and true or whatever. And there was a secondary explosion to prove that we were right. No, it was a water canister that someone was bringing home to their village. And you killed him and you killed some kids. And nobody was even like fired after the Afghanistan pullout. And they have so many things to say about Donald Trump. I've got a lot to say about Donald Trump here or there. I criticize him when there's something that I don't like. You know, I don't pay nearly as much attention. I know he's the president, but like so many people hate his guts so much. It's like people care too much about this man. I know he's the president, but they let him run their lives and control their emotions so much. My filter of my world doesn't go through him. He's like a prism. He's like a prism for people to like, goes in to Donald Trump and just goes out all kinds of different ways. You know, everything is just filtered through him. My life's not like that. Even though I talk politics, my life is not like that. You don't like that he's the president. I understand. That gives you I guess you have the right to lie because you have the First Amendment. Okay. So you can lie if you want to. It's not helpful. And Alyssa Slotkin, I issued this warning. Alyssa Slotkin is being promoted a lot in the media. She gets around a lot. I think that the Democrats are trying to make their new bench. I think they know the one that they had kind of sucked. And they're trying to make this new bench. She came up in Michigan. Unfortunately, she's a Michigan senator. And I'm from Michigan. She came up during the 2018 midterms. You know, they kind of, it was a year of Donald Trump is bad and suburban white women are going to stand up to him or whatever. And they had a lot of white women, you know, that ran for different offices. And she was one of them who ended up winning. And so she ended up barely winning the Senate race. Unfortunately, she won that instead of Mike Rogers. And so now she's in the Senate saying all this kind of crazy stuff. She has higher aspirations. And I don't think it's just like her spending some time in the Senate and maybe coming home to Michigan and then running for governor or something. I think she's going to try to be a big wig for a while, and they're going to, if she's doing a lot of good A/B testing, that they're going to try to push her to run for president or something like that. I'm not saying it's like a sure thing, but I'm suspicious of the amount of airtime that she's getting and the kind of push there's around her. And I want people to remember what she said about our service members. I want people to remember what she's willing to say and how she's trying to undermine the president, the office of the president, to sow discord. It's one thing to not like your political opponent, but to not really respect the office and want to sow discord in that kind of way. The chain of command is just disgusting. Like, there was that story about Afghanistan bounties going out, right? And they're like, oh, well, Donald Trump, he didn't do anything about this. And they're like, this was like a fake story. We didn't like even put up the chain of command. There's no validity here. And Biden was pushing that story. And when Biden became the president, they asked Jen Psaki about it, like, oh, well, yeah, I guess that there wasn't really any validity there. It's like, are you going to apologize for that? Are you going to apologize for trying to make it seem like our troops were being targeted and the commander in chief didn't do anything? They really attacked him hard in like 2020, trying to undermine like his support from the military with that. And then there was a losers and sucker story, which I've debunked and done many videos about that. So I keep your eye on this woman. Keep your eye. Let me show you again what she looks like, Alyssa Slotkin. Because they're going to push her a lot. And I'm so sorry that Michigan elevated her. I'm so sorry my state did that to you all. Same way I feel about Gretchen Whitmer. I'm so sorry that my state did that to y'all. You know, her getting in double digits, you know, in her re-election for governor. because I think she obviously has higher political aspirations. You know, she's a Midwestern governor. You know, I think she has a future on that bench for them trying to push her forward to higher, you know, political goals. So I'm sorry, you gotta watch out. You gotta watch out for these Michigan women. But it's just so disgusting. She's on the Alyssa Slotkin is on the Armed Services Committee, and she's just trash. Just trash. Speaking of trash, let's chit chat about this Tim Walz scandal a bit. So the New York Times, it's funny. I said that they did an act of random journalism, and I didn't make up that term. I wish that I did. I don't know if I know that I wish that I did, because it's been around a while, and I'm glad that it's been used. But Rush Limbaugh used to say it all the time. You know, oh, a random act of journalism, because you know they like to ignore or skew a bunch of stories. So when there's a good story that actually covers something real that's happened, that's great. Now the story came a little late though, about some Minnesota fraud. I'm not going to read the New York story. I'm going to read a little bit of the New York Post story about how Tim Walz is being thrown under the bus as being responsible for $1 billion of fraud. Minnesota social service workers slam Governor Tim Walz as 100% responsible for of $1 billion state. Okay, hundreds of state workers, Minnesota Department of Human Services publicly exonerated Governor Walz for allowing a massive fraud scandal to unfold under his watch and retaliating against their whistleblowers. Over $1 billion in taxpayers' money was fleeced by dozens of scammers in Minnesota, feeding our future fraud scandal, the largest known COVID-19 fraud case in the country. And it is late that New York Times reported on that, because I saw like trickles of that story kind of being a thing. Tim Walz is 100% responsible for the massive fraud in Minnesota. We let Tim Walz know of fraud early on, hoping for a partnership in stopping fraud, but no, we got the opposite response. The Minnesota DHS employees X account, which represents over 480 staffers, chided Saturday. Tim Walz systematically retaliated against whistleblowers using monitoring, threats, repression, and did his best to discredit fraud reports. Instead of partnership, we got the full weight of retaliation, the account charged. It's scary, isolating, and left us wondering who we can turn to. Now, that's crazy if that's true. Of course, people would want to blame someone, and he is at the top of the food chain, and so a lot of fingers could naturally point to Tim Walz. It's funny to think about that this guy could have been the vice president. I mean, they weren't very close because Kamala Harris lost every swing state, but there's but all these red flags. They're just crazy, but they were crazy and apparent before, but people didn't want to talk about them that much because elections and whatnot. Just last week, the Justice Department prosecuted the 78th defendant in what prosecutors have dubbed the Feeding Our Future fraud scheme. At least 59 people have been convicted so far. During the past 5 years, fraudsters targeted Minnesota's generous social safety net by setting up companies that billed the state for social services that prosecutors alleged were never actually provided. Feeding Our Future, a nonprofit founded in 2016 that purported to help feed school children, had partnered with dozens of local businesses under the pretense of providing food aid. The nonprofit, which dissolved in 2022, and its partners billed the state, claiming to have helped feed tens of thousands of needy children. In reality, most of that money was squandered on foreign real estate projects, luxury cars, and more. Other organizations besides Feeding Our Future committed fraud with Minnesota's social safety net as well. The fraud largely revolved around dozens of people in the Somali diaspora. Minnesota is home to about 80,000 Somali Americans. As staff, we firsthand witnessed the observed fraud happening, yet we were shut down, reassigned, and told to keep quiet, the Minnesota DHS employees X account alleged. That's really bad if they find all this stuff is true. Sometimes more leadership did not want to appear to discriminate against certain communities and were unwilling to take action such as stopping fraud that would have been adverse impact on their image. Federal prosecutors began charging individuals associated with Feeding Our Future in 2022. As federal investigators parsed through documents, they quickly realized that the fraud was widespread. One homelessness program started as $2.6 million in 2021 saw its cost soar to $104 million last year after being rife with fraud, the New York Times reported. Minnesota has become the land of 10,000 frauds under Tim Walz. House Majority Whip Tom Emmer told the Post about the scandal. This is a total slap in the face to the hardworking, law-abiding people of Minnesota that Walz administration is either too incompetent or completely unwilling to clean their own mess. The egregious scandal also drew attention from President Trump, who ripped Minnesota as a hub of fraudulent money laundering activity. Walz returned fire against Trump and noted that I take responsibility for putting people in jail, despite federal prosecutors leading many of the charges. Donald Trump deflect, demoralize, come up with no solutions. He's not going to help fix anything on fraud. You're the governor of the state, bro. You're the governor of the state. If he's going to come in and do something and he finds out that you were part of covering up the fraud, like, is the next step to arrest you to make sure that you were, like, if they could do federal charges against you. I don't know if that could do, these are if they're state funds. I don't know how that could go any higher. I'm not sure, but bro, just stop, just shut up, take responsibility, say we're fixing it, and don't bother. But what Meet the Press, he said all that stuff in a NBC News Meet the Press in an interview that aired Sunday. My God, there's a big difference between fraud and corruption is something he knows about. The Minnesota DHS employees account also accused Walz of weakening safeguards and disempowering the Office of Legislative Auditor during the alarming fraud. This is a cascade of systemic failures leading up to Tim Walz. The workers alleged agency leaders appointed by Tim Walz willfully disregarded rules and laws to keep fraud reports quiet, even to the extent of threatening families of whistleblowers. Wow. We can't fight fraud in Minnesota alone, hence why we're appealing to the federal levels of government. We need all the help we can get. The Post reached out to Walz's office for comment. Walz launched a campaign for a third term as governor of Minnesota in September. Minnesota is one of over a dozen states that don't have term limits on governor, but no Minnesota governor has been elected 3 times since gubernatorial terms were extended from 2 to 4 years in 1963. So he's already pushing it. There was, so I don't think we talked about Feeding the America scandal, but there was another scandal with another group. I think there's like 3 fraud groups going on right now that with autism. There's a autism fraud scheme that was also going on in Minnesota, involving like Somali people, and that also, I guess some of the money was being sent for like terror, from my understanding. So yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in Minnesota. Again, good on New York Times for drawing some attention to it, but I don't know, maybe they feel like a little bit of conspiracy here with the timing. It's holidays. People have other things kind of going in their minds. And it's between Thanksgiving and Christmas. People are just, shopping and whatnot, enjoying family, not maybe plugged into politics as much as they usually are. No, people in Minnesota are going to be upset about this stuff continuously. Are they going to make it last the full time of like election season? Get this story out of the way, address the different issues, and maybe kind of downplay it or try to find a way to take accountability. Like, oh, well, we turned it around. We got all the fraudsters. People are going to jail. It's not me. It's everyone else. Is it early enough that New York Times dropped this story and they don't feel like they have to talk about it later, that Tim Walz could recover? I don't know. Maybe. but there's a lot of fraud stories going on. So that's on the people of Minnesota to keep this in their minds. Stories like this should have been pushed obviously earlier, but I don't know when the news happens. I guess you should cover the news, but this story is a little late, but at least they covered, I guess. And it's on the Republicans to make the case on why Tim Walz should not get reelected. And they got Minneapolis could have been overtaken by a Somalian man who looked like, that movie when it's like, I'm the captain of the ship. He kind of reminds me of that guy, but he lost because basically there were blood feuds between the different Somalian groups, and Jacob Frey barely won that election by the skin of his teeth. It's just insane. And then they changed their state flag to basically, now it looks like the Somalian flag. And I think it's the whole state. Yeah. So the Minnesota flag is is blue with this star. Yeah. Let me show you guys if you don't know. We covered this in before. So this is the Minnesota flag, okay? I'm spelling this wrong. Okay. And that's the Somalia flag, right? So same kind of colors and vibe for Minnesota now. You've been conquered. You've been conquered. And similarly in the UK, how they didn't want to report certain stories going on with rape gangs that were being facilitated and pushed by Pakistani Muslims. The fraud stuff people didn't want to really look into because it was going to cause issues with that community. And there were reports of if you don't keep approving the money for this stuff, then we're gonna sue you for discrimination. And this, people are using the fear of being called a racist to get away with actual crimes. It's incredible. I don't think people should go out and obviously be purposely racist. There are people who feel people have come against white people so much, so I'm just going to go out there and say the N-word, or people were giving to that one woman who called a child the N-word or whatever. And I think that was in Minnesota. That was wild to me. So those kind of corrections are ridiculous. But when it comes to the left and how they'll use weaponized racism to scare people out of doing the right thing is insane. And we need some common sense and courage just injected back into our society, or things will continue to get worse and worse and worse. And we obviously do not want that to happen. So Godspeed to Minnesota. I hope you guys can get back on the right track. Donald Trump is acting like he wants to deport everybody. And I don't know how much he's going to be able to get away with that. He's going to be challenged in the courts. There's going to be media uprising and tons of bad stories like there has been. And I'm sure Jasmine Crockett and other people will continue to call the National Guard and ICE agents or whoever slave catchers. But you know what? We gotta try to preserve our nation the best that we can legally, Anyway, Thank you guys for joining me today. Please go blacktunes.com to a different content website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do, please consider leaving a donation on the website because it does cost a stream. Run my site, all that good stuff. You guys can't support. I very much do appreciate it and appreciate you guys. You guys can check out the merch there, like the mugs. And where's my favorite t-shirt? This one. I am not the victim you're looking for. Really like that one. I have different books you guys could check out, like Slay Your Fear, How to Overcome a Spirit of Fear. And I also have, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. That book is also available as well. And of course, you guys can check out Bigger, my children's book. I got a paperback one behind me. This is the hardcover one. You guys can pick that up. There's a link in the description if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube where you guys can go ahead and get a signed copy. So go ahead and pick that up today for someone that you know and love, because Christmas is right around the corner. We're already like on the 1st. So it's the Christmas season. 25 more days or 24 or whatever. Thank you guys. God bless you. And I will see you tomorrow.